Welcome to Impact Masters Podcast in collaboration with Africa's Talking Retold Podcast, where every conversation sparks new insights. Join us as we delve into the stories of extraordinary individuals who are shaping our world. Movers and shakers in tech, policymakers, entrepreneurs, entertainers, and all those whose stories are worth telling. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and transformed. Welcome, and let's embark on this journey of discovery together. Impact Masters Podcast. You can check us out on all social media platforms. You can also find us across all podcast channels. Simply search for Impact Masters, then subscribe, follow, and share. www.impactmasters.io. Here's your host, Michael Kamathi.
And is it going to be the same experience you would have had if it hadn't been COVID? No. But this is your experience.
Yeah.
This is our experience together. So really to take a step back and say, what can we do?
Yeah.
Instead of just going into fetal position and saying we can't do this, right?
Yeah.
So that was a case of really trying to recognize that as communities, we had power to respond.
Yeah.
And we might get it wrong sometimes, and there were some seriously high stakes. So we did our best not to.
Yeah.
But we were taking a risk.
Absolutely.
And it was a risk worth taking.
Yeah.
And as soon as we recognized that that risk worth taking was about the education of young people for whom this is it, this is my shot, it was worth it.
Yeah.
For wildfire, our campus at one point was surrounded on 3 sides. And it was the largest wildfire in the history of New Mexico. And we had to get everybody out, everybody evacuated. And it was really a moment of, first of all, you don't do a whole lot of, gee, should we do it this way or that way? You move. And it's really, I'm not the kind of leader who is a top-down person. I really believe in distributed leadership. But boy, in a crisis, you say go and everyone knows, you don't argue. You do the part you have in order to make sure to get these young people and the rest of the campus community off campus safely.
Yeah.
But we also provide water to a number of the homes on the mountains. So we also felt responsible for communicating to them what was happening.
Yeah.
So there's the part of the leadership that's all about snap decisions based on the limited information you have, and academics love more information. Give me more information, more information. You don't get to do that in a crisis. You just take what you have and you act on it. We did. I think where the learning started was really when we found ourselves in a camp, a number of miles down the road, where our students, it took them a while to realize we were refugees in that camp. We'd gone from this privileged place of education where whether you're, whether you have no economic means or great economic means, everybody in a boarding school is privileged to be getting an education. And we went from that to being ourselves refugees. And it took a while to realize that. At first, the students felt, really upset, and they'd left their belongings behind. It didn't know whether they'd get them back. And many of them ignored us when we said, bring all your school materials, because the second-year students were telling them that it would only be one night because that was their experience a year ago, except it was a different fire. And so the students are kind of all, discombobulated until other refugees from the area started appearing. And these people, some of them had already seen their homes burn. Many of them, we like to say in New Mexico, we're land rich, but we're cash poor. So for people to have lost, their ancestral lands,
It's
no
everything.
insurance to help them rebuild. And the students started seeing our neighbors, our vecinos coming and showing up. Suddenly the students stopped worrying about themselves and started asking, how can we help? Can we distribute water? Can we go and let people know as they drive into the camp where where they can find food, where the cabins are? And it turned into one of the most profound learning experiences ever. I just met with one of our graduates from that era, Aisha, and got to hear her account of how meaningful it was to find herself in that position.
Yeah.
Many of the students were just upset because we were about to do the huge exams, the IB exams, and they were displaced. But it got them talking too about how many students, how many young people in the world are displaced. Maybe not because of wildfire. It could be because they have no home.
Yeah.
It could be they're displaced because of political unrest.
Yeah.
It could be because of flooding.
Yeah.
Suddenly, they were seeing their own humanity in light of something bigger than themselves.
Absolutely.
That's when education starts.
Yeah.
And I loved listening. I wish Aisha were here because she was far more eloquent than I could be because she had that experience. And, she actually was in Kenya during COVID, her first year. She wasn't able to get there.
Yeah.
So she had to deal with being online with the huge time difference. And she got through that. Talk about resilience. And then she comes her second year and we end up evacuating because of wildfire. So I would venture to say she had a very unusual UWC USA experience, but grew from it. And I could see it in her sitting with her at breakfast, I guess. Was it only yesterday? Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. And would you say, in crisis, that's where the true leadership is coined, to the essence of, even if you have been a leader and you have not gone through crisis, you might be lucky, but when the crisis hits, that's when now the true leadership comes in. And as you answer that, UWC is known for its diverse community. How does the leadership foster an inclusive environment that respects and celebrates cultural, religious, national differences, linguistic differences, financial, economic differences in that environment whereby everyone is focused on ensuring that they learn, they become better, they go and influence back their life and the community they come from. Or even if they go to a new community, they influence with that knowledge. And I don't know, education systems and environment shapes a lot of that. So UWC with over 90 countries coming in, that's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you put those two things together, MK, because crisis leadership on the one hand, and on the other hand, leading in a diverse community requires, I think, the same orientation. And that is to recognize others and the value they bring to the table.
That's its leadership.
They don't have to prove it.
Yeah.
They don't have to prove it.
Yeah.
It's there. You see it. So in a crisis, everyone thinks about the leader, right? I think about the people I needed to trust to get done what we needed to do.
Yeah.
And thank God I had people I could trust. And they rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
They did it, whether it was the faculty and staff, whether it was, our security director whose home was right in the line of fire. And literally every time the wind shifted, if it shifted toward the school and we were all worried, it was going away from his house. And when it shifted away from the school, his home was in danger. And yet he showed up to work every day. He led a team. He made sure our students were safe. He made sure that the campus was secure, even as, firefighters from all over the country were converging on our campus to stage there for the fires. To be able to trust Eugene was amazing. And that was true. I could name any number of our faculty and staff, to be able to trust our students, to recognize that, students like to get in trouble on occasion. This was not the time.
Yes.
And they rose to the occasion. They knew what they had to do. Leadership in that context was really trusting people. Leading in a diverse environment is the same kind of trust. Recognizing that what you bring, I may not understand. I may never have known someone. I remember the first year we got a student from Congo. It's the first student at UWC USA from Congo ever. I didn't know a thing about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know a thing about the country. I'm ashamed to say I didn't know very much about its history. I've learned my history and my geography by having the students I have. That's been the wonderful thing for my education, right? Yeah. But when you see these young people come with all of this diversity of background, you learn to trust them to teach you something in the moments that need a viewpoint and a decision. And it's not easy. And I don't always get it right. And sometimes there is no right. There are just a lot of not so great choices. And you make the best one you can. And guess what? That means you're living. It means you're not just working. It means you're living. And you're living your leadership. Yeah. And it's the same for young people who lead within our community. They learn through their leadership and they don't always get it right. Yeah. And that's because we're human and because we're actually trying to do something that is interactive. Yeah. That's not performative. Yeah. Again, that's not transactional. That really requires that we show up for each other. Yeah. Now, if I could figure out how to scale that so that that space is created successfully, generationally. I mean, look what's happening in Kenya right now, right? Yeah. If I could figure out how to do that, oh my gosh, I could fund the world because I'd be rich, right? But unfortunately, we all have to just figure it out within the contexts that we find ourselves. Yeah. But I think the same kind of leadership in crisis is the same kind of leadership when we seriously embrace diversity. Yes. It's truly about trusting people to bring what they have to bring and to give it in the moment it's needed.
Yes. And Gen Zs have proved that if you put the tribal economic background and everything aside, you can achieve so much with what has been happening here for the last 2 weeks with the Reject Finance Bill 2024. Yep. And that actually has given hope where there was no hope. And I hope this going to change the way you approach everything, maybe going forward. But of course, that remains to be hope because the more things change, the more they remain the same. We're going to take a short break. And when we'll be back, we will delve more into more of your life.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome to Impact Master.
Thank you.
Quick pause, folks. We're stepping into a brief interlude, but stay tuned because after the break, we dive deeper into the incredible journey of our guest. Meanwhile, we'd like to send a massive shout out to our sponsors for empowering this exchange of ideas and innovation. We'll be right back on Impact Masters. Subscribe, follow, and share. Check us out at www.impactmasters.io. See you after the break.
Thank you so much, folks. Thank you so much for dialing in. And we're going to go into community, innovation, and strategic vision. But when you talk about community, I have something to say. And even when you talk about marketing, sales, a lot has been changing, at least in the engineering world, whereby you can't just sell what you have not used, what you don't understand. And not only that, you have to show the value before you ask for the value. And here means that engineers are more interested to what actually could make their life easier so that they use it to build more easy solutions. And in this case, Africa's Talking as a community of developers across Africa. You can join at www.africastalking.community.com. And in this case, you join other portfolio of developers in the 54 plus recognized African Union countries, whereby you learn from each other, build from each other's knowledge, and build a better Africa. So I encourage you to check out community.africastalking.com and join as a member. You'll access API experts who will guide you through building scalable solutions. And still talking about community, I know San Miguel County, where UWC is located, is one of the poorest in the US. How does the school engage with and support the local community, and what impact does this have on students and staff?
The interaction is really wonderful. And one of the things that I emphasize to our students and ask us always to remember is that while we provide service within the community, the community also has a great deal to offer us and does. And so people hear that San Miguel County is an impoverished county, but there is a richness there that I want our students to experience, even as I want them to ask what they can do to add to that richness. So our students do about 17,000 hours of community service annually, among them in San Miguel County and sometimes outside the county. Everything from working with young people to teach philosophy, to study philosophy together, and that includes very little people. And learning coding, working with robotics. Or it could be learning to read, right? Reading level at 3rd grade is an indicator of 2 things: graduation rates and incarceration rates.
At that grade?
At 3rd grade, you can predict what's going to happen. And so we have students who serve as reading buddies. They work at the animal shelter. They might work restoring a building. They work with local organizations that are dealing with our rivers, which are under duress since the fires because of all of the debris that comes down and the flooding that takes place. So there are a number of different kinds of contributions that our community makes as service to the larger community. By the same token, the community welcomes our students as getaway families. And so students have a family that will essentially adopt them over the 2 years that they're there and invite them into their homes to learn about the culture, to learn about the food and the music, to maybe get out onto ancestral lands or to visit museums in a nearby town. And so there's a kind of reciprocity that happens that is a wonderful part of the United World College USA experience.
Wonderful. So it's a give and take kind of
it's a give and take.
Symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. And, I worry, so much of service learning, students can get the sense that they're there to save a community. Communities know what they need. Usually people who go in to save something do more damage than good, right? And so for us, service is giving of ourselves. But we want to know from the community, what do you need?
Absolutely.
And what do you want from us? And what can we offer? And similarly, what do we need from you? What might you offer? And when you have that kind of reciprocity, then you have, again, it's not transactional. It's meaningful. It's meaningful exchange. And that's what I hope happens for these protests in Kenya, right?
Me too.
I mean, right now, there's us and them. And we, I'm going to pretend I'm one of the young people, we actually managed to move something by having the retraction of that bill, right? Now's when the work starts. What's the government going to do? Is the government going to invite young people in for deliberation?
Or bite some of them off? Or betrayal? Or
what's that going to be? Right? Because there are choices now to be made. Everybody's maybe breathing a sigh of relief, that something has calmed down. But the underpinnings, right? They're there. They're right underneath the surface. And it's when you enter into a reciprocal relationship that you start to have any opportunity for real improvement, real change, real growth, real interaction.
That's very powerful because a lot of that requires patience and listening and even understanding what is being shared and compromise to some extent.
It does. It does. And that's not easy, actually. And I won't pretend I get it right every time. I mean, sometimes, for example, in my position, students will be saying something that for them is brand new. It's a new thought. It's a new need. It's a new reflection. And there's a part of me that is sitting there appreciating that. And there's another part of me that's sitting there saying, oh my gosh, I've heard this before. We're going to try it. It's not going to work. Then they're going to be frustrated, right? And guess what? When I'm having that internal dialogue, do you think I'm listening?
No. You're thinking about yourself and what's going to happen.
And I'm thinking about, okay, what can I really do this time? How could we really change this time, right? But that's not reciprocity. And that's also not leadership, frankly.
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's really tough because we all run out of patience and we get exhausted by these kinds of things. And the only way change is ever going to happen is if we meet each other and work on it together.
Yes. So I know, the wilderness, community service, and arts and culture programs at UWC is a game changer for most of the students. And it's an integral part of their life, whatever time it takes. Can you please elaborate on these programs and their significance in student development?
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I'll start with wilderness, which is something that when we talk to our alumni, we're in our 42nd year. And when we start in our 43rd year, and when we talk to our alumni, they immediately talk about the power of wilderness. And the first thing that happens when students come from all over the world with various levels of English proficiency, with very different backgrounds, with very different relationships to nature and wilderness, they come, they get packed up, and they head out on overnight camping with one another. And they have to figure out how to put up tents together. They have to figure out how to cook together. They have to figure out how to pack out everything that they packed in. And they have to do it cooperatively. And it's their first experience of having to depend on each other. And they will see some people excel at things and others at other things. And they learn to work collaboratively and collectively. And so the wilderness experience is both an opportunity to get out into nature and to recognize that we're a part of it. And it's an opportunity to recognize that when we are challenged that way, we're better together.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going to happen on a wilderness trip.
Yeah.
You have all your plans.
Yeah.
Your second year students, if you're a first year student, your second year students are leading you through it.
Yeah.
So you're relying on your peers.
Yes.
But if lightning starts, you've got to move to cover.
Yeah.
If the rains start coming down, you've got to figure out whether you stop now or head as far out as you plan to, with the risk of not being able to set up camp. So all of that has to be a part of what you're doing. You're extra hungry, but your food has to last through the number of days of the trip, right? So there's a kind of learning experience that is collective, but also that stretches individuals. And one of the things that our founder of the United World College Movement, Kurt Hahn, said was that there's more in you than you know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you believe that, you can really rise to the occasion. So the wilderness experience is very much an experience that's meant to have you dig deep and find out that there's more in you than you know.
Yeah.
The arts and culture experience is very different. And sometimes I have worried that our arts and culture performances can reinforce stereotypes rather than helping us to get past them. And so students will perform things that everybody expects them to perform. The jokes about time, Latin American time and African time and Austrian time, right? And so they can get tempted to kind of fall into those expressions of stereotypes.
Yeah.
At its best, our arts and cultural exchange is really about giving people access to otherness in a very enjoyable, non-threatening way, right? When I watch someone dance or sing or recite something, I'm interested, I'm curious, I'm open, right? Whereas if someone starts telling me that the way I do things is wrong, or that my religion has been oppressive to others, or that I'm being elitist because I'm using English and I'm speaking too fast, right? I tend not to be as open and as curious, and right? We
feel judged.
We feel judged. But arts and culture gives us a chance to have that first entrance into otherness.
Yes.
And so it's an encounter with beauty.
Yeah.
And that's a way of opening a bridge.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what our arts and culture experience allows for students.
Yeah.
And service, again, I think it's a place to discover that there's more in us than we know. And more importantly, that there's more in others
Yes.
than we know if we just give them a chance
Yes.
to express that. And we start to break down those us and them,
Yeah.
those us and them models. You know, we're privileged, they're poor. We know how to do this. They need us to help them. And when you start breaking that down, because you find out, guess what? They're us.
Yeah.
We're them.
I can see myself in them.
I see myself.
Yeah.
And what I'm good at is one thing, and what I'm not good at,
They are good at.
they're good at.
And fosters collaboration.
That's right.
Yeah. And cohesiveness.
Absolutely. Because again, we start out whole. The fracture is the after. It's not the beginning. We're whole as human beings and as communities.
Yeah.
And the more we ask ourselves to remember that, to reflect on it, and to act on it, the more it comes back to the forefront.
Yes. And I think Africans, we have Ubuntu,
Yes.
which is I am because you are.
Because you are. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
And I think Teddy might want to talk a bit about Ubuntu.
I love it.
And what it means even for humanity.
Sorry. Let's come on.
Yeah.
I think at...
Yeah, but as Teddy fixes the mic, one thing I've appreciated about Africans, and when I get a chance, like this is a good chance to talk to Africans.
Yes.
The 1.6 billion of us.
And so many
Young, over 70% are
Amazing.
below 35 years of age. That's a huge capacity.
That's amazing.
Is that the strength, the true strength is in us as people. And any leader who is going to invest in us, may it be internal or external, is a leader who has good intention. And I know people have needs about infrastructure, anything that is besides the people, even if it's empowering the people. To some extent, it takes away from us as people. And even for ourselves to invest in us, we just need to be more knowledgeable, be more aware of what is happening, and actually start to utilize each other's strength. And I know we have done that really well as of now, because ideally Africans, everyone is always trying to see what is there to take advantage of. But one thing that has kept us together and more happier, if I may say that, is seeing the positive in other people. If you think about how much Africans and what they have passed through until today, we're always welcoming everyone. We're always seeing positive things in others. And we're always seeing the good in others, despite the intention. So I would like to encourage the Ubuntu philosophy as Teddy talks more about it.